Spring is broke, but we're here anyway, except for Chris. He couldn't make it today, but we'll figure out what that's all about right after this. Oh, spring break means nothing to me.
Good morning, Beth. Yeah, it doesn't mean a lot to me
Well,
either.
a little bit. My wife's home because she's a public school teacher, and so she gets to be off this week. But
It's exciting.
have a nice packed full schedule. Got a couple of workshops I'm doing, and lots of clients coming in.
It's good.
So, but she is meeting me this afternoon. We're going to go to the thing where you get the pre-check, which I know you were just talking about.
I can't wait for you to hear about your experience.
Yeah, well, I remember you guys talking about it. You say the location's a little sketchy.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so I was telling Shelby about that over the weekend because we were talking about going. And,
It's interesting.
like in the building and down a dank hallway.
Up a dank hallway.
Up a dank hallway. Well, I'm going to have an
Very
interesting
interesting.
experience regardless. So
Okay.
I've had pre-check before.
Okay.
And I let it expire. I didn't need it
Yeah.
anymore. I wasn't flying as much as I used to.
Sure.
But we are planning on going to Argentina
Yes.
here in a couple of months. So
Excited
we
to hear about that
decided
trip
we would,
when it
yeah, I
happens.
think it's going to be awesome. But we decided to go ahead and get our pre-check
Yep.
for that. So she got on the TSA website and she made her appointment
Yep,
and all that.
easy
I'm like,
peasy.
I'm going to go ahead and make an appointment. Let's try to make it like really close to the same time so we can go
Yeah.
together. Well, I'm on their website and I go through it and I'm like, do I want to renew or do I need a new one? Because I've already had one, but it's expired.
expired, so you don't know.
Best as I could suss out from their website, I needed to apply brand new. So I went brand new and I entered all that and it said, you've already got one, but it's expired. You can't renew it. I'm like, yeah, I know.
That's why I want to renew it.
That's why I did the
Yeah.
new one. And I can find nothing on the page other than click, so click here. And so I click there and it starts the process all over again. So this time I click renew. Same thing. You can't renew because it's expired. I'm like, okay.
Well-
I click the button and I go, we're going to do a new application. Same thing. You can't renew. I'm like, come on,
It's a
people.
vicious cycle.
I guess Doge hasn't got to that one yet. But anyway. So you can walk in to these things, allegedly. So
Yeah, I don't know how that'll go for you.
I don't know
because
either.
it's definitely one of those things where you walk in and they have your pre-application
Yeah.
on there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
who knows? But maybe
well,
there's a
I
thing.
mean, they've obviously got the stuff from the last time I had it.
Yeah, maybe
and,
you just so maybe you just walk in and renew.
I have no.
You're gonna find out.
I have no arrests or anything since then, or ever.
Anytime I have to make a trip to the courthouse area, I always in Springfield, I always think, where can I eat over here? So you look for a good place to eat. Like, you're not far from Commercial Street. You know, you're not
True.
far from downtown places. So it's a good place to,
Well, we
eat somewhere off the beaten path.
the downside is we will be in my truck today, which I hate driving downtown in my truck. But we're doing
Yeah.
that because our plan is after this we're going to drive by I think it's Southern Materials or what?
Yeah.
And we're picking up some of our stuff,
Stuff.
like sink and
Finishy stuff.
yeah,
That's
stuff.
cool.
So probably don't want to go to Commercial in the 2500.
I don't know. You could make it.
I
You
can
make it work.
make it. I'm just not a fan of doing it. You know, I don't like it.
That's
so.
fair. You got to look for the outer rim parking lot.
Yeah, but at any rate, I don't know what to do other than show up and go, I don't know what to do because the website won't let me pre-apply.
I know. That'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how this
Well,
goes for you.
We'll report next week on how that experience
It's so, my thought, obviously it's been like contracted out to a company like a lot of things are. Like, I remember, what was the big thing? Oh, when they did the stimulus checks during COVID, which I've been thinking about because we're at a 5-year anniversary of the, declaration of
we are,
the.
yeah.
Yeah.
5 years.
That was
That's right. This is now like season 5 of the Morning
season
Waffle.
5,
We
yeah,
need to
yeah.
redo our
Oh, that is true.
yeah,
And
this is season 4.
because it's that time of year, the national emergency was declared on March 13th, which was a Friday the 13th, 2020.
Yep.
And so I've been thinking about that lately. And where was I going? I've lost my. Oh,
Contract.
I remember when they were doing the
Contract.
stimulus things, they had contracted, obviously, it out to some sort of different company that did that. And, and I was thinking while I was at this other place, like, okay, this has been contracted out by a different company, obviously. I'm like, we have all these government employees,
Well,
right?
not anymore.
Why were we contracted everything out?
Yeah. Because
Like-
they don't work, apparently. That's what we're finding
Couldn't
out.
they have just done this stuff?
You would think.
It's
You would
very, I
think,
don't know.
but-
That's my food for thought of the day.
Well, that actually, the contracting actually started in the 1990s because Bill Clinton came in and he said, I'm going to greatly reduce the government workforce. And he did. He cut hundreds of thousands of jobs that were federal jobs and then created like 500,000, like 10 times as many jobs by outsourcing them. So he actually increased the workload of the federal government because he outsourced all the stuff that was being
interesting.
done. Yeah, it was a real shell game. But that's kind of where a lot of this started that we're now we're rolling back now.
Well, and
getting rid of all that.
I struggle with that concept of outsourcing government work to people because if it's important enough for the government to do it, shouldn't the government do it and handle it? Because here's why. Because those government contracts are usually artificially inflated to the point of ridiculousness.
Well, and that's the argument, is that was actually the point of what Bill Clinton was doing, was to create this whole cadre of outsourced that then has no government oversight, that you're just throwing money at.
Yeah, and you don't
can't-
know who.
You don't know who, and you don't know what's happening.
yeah,
and that's
and it's-
exactly what we found out is in fact true.
Well, and one of the things that I have, then this greatly reduction of the idea, we'll see how it all pans out, right? So then there's a whole lot of people who've relied on fat government contracts for a really long time, and that's not going to be great for the economy. And so it's kind of an interesting.
short term, no.
In the short term, no.
Yeah.
Which is how these things work. It's cyclical. But because there's a lot of individuals, corporations, different things that rely on those government contracts. Well, it's like puts more simply, like you think about all the work that's been done at the school here in Rogersville, right? We've been building on the school forever, and there's been a lot of companies that's been probably a large portion of their work over the years has been the schools and different stuff like that. So I don't know. It's interesting.
And I mean, that legitimate use of
It's good.
public
That's how it
dollars
should
is
work.
kind of fine. Now,
Yeah.
Should the federal government be funding local schools? Probably not. They should be funded locally. And, to the extent that the Department of Education is being dismantled, not one penny of federal funding to education is being cut. The funding for the
I know,
education
that's-
is still happening.
Yeah, and people don't understand.
People don't understand that.
No.
They're not cutting any of the funding. They're just cutting out the bureaucracy that's gumming up the works and all of that. So.
Yeah.
But, to the extent that there's, millions, I would assume, of people that have based an entire career of we're pulling fat out of the federal government and we're living high on the hog farm.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to lose their jobs and all that. I think the answer is I really don't care, Margaret.
Yeah.
Not
about those particular people, no.
Good. You shouldn't have been getting that money anyway. It's a big scam and a big shell game, and I'm glad you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah.
It's like all those pipeline workers, go get a new job. That's what the Biden administration told them. And those people were doing real work.
Yeah, they were actually working.
They were doing real work
Yeah.
that they put out of work there.
Hard, yeah.
And it was going to have a big benefit to our country, but no, we didn't want that.
I don't know. It's interesting.
I do have an issue with a couple of things Trump's done recently, though.
Okay.
In particular, the one that I think is probably the most obviously wrong is the executive order where he declared the pardons null and void.
I read your thing on that this morning.
I posted about it. If you really want to know my in-depth analysis, it's on Facebook. I just really don't think he has the power to do that.
I just think that's a really stupid cycle to get into.
Oh,
you
100%.
can't get out of that.
Yeah, no,
You can't, especially
bad
like
move.
because he's with I read your post and it's like he's basically trying to go off a technicality that it wasn't wet signed.
Well, it's
right?
just not his call.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's probably right. And I don't think the fact that it's a wet signature versus auto pen is his complaint. I think his complaint is we don't know who was controlling the auto pen, and we're pretty darn sure it wasn't Joe Biden. Because,
I get
he
what
wasn't
you're
competent,
saying. Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think the problem is that a auto pen was used. I think it's who was running the auto pen. Because we don't
Gotcha.
know.
Yeah.
We don't have any
And that
confidence in the
wasn't.
actual
Yeah,
government.
I see what you're saying now. That makes more sense.
So I think it's invalid. It could be invalid because of that. I don't think that's the biggest problem.
was
I
the
think
president actually the one making these decisions?
Correct.
Or was it his cronies?
Correct. And, we will know. Hey, Diana.
Good morning, Diana.
And we don't have any way of knowing that. We'll never be able to figure that out.
No, we
but
won't.
The real basis of that is nobody's ever tried to just preemptively pardon somebody before.
That's bonkers.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
and-
That's like, well, and it just at the surface level,
It's icky.
it's icky
Yeah,
in
it's
so many ways. Like you haven't been charged with something, but we're going to give you a free pass.
Right.
What? No, that's not the way I mean, you're supposed to pardon somebody. Okay, in my dumb mind, you're supposed to pardon somebody because they were, I don't know, unlawfully, maybe that it was a retaliation. There's been new evidence brought to light that they are not, the general consensus is that person was not guilty or it was really just a political tactic. That's really the reason you should get pardoned.
Yeah. Well, and you need a specific crime to be pardoned of.
Yes.
And so the
like,
closest.
but yeah.
Yeah. The closest analog to this would be Gerald Ford's pardoning of Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon had not been charged with anything.
It's a good example, yeah.
But we all knew what the alleged crime
Yeah.
was, and so he issued a very specific pardon for very specific acts, and that's colorable at least. The pardons that were issued by Joe Biden's auto pen were anything that happened from 2012 forward that was nonviolent.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you find out later that any of these people.
Think how much harm you can do with something that's nonviolent.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Well, and consider this. I mean, there's evidence to believe that Anthony Fauci was deeply involved in funding the Wuhan lab and their gain of function research that resulted in the pandemic.
But like Beth says, it makes them look guilty even if they weren't.
Is that nonviolent? I don't know. People
I don't know,
died
it seemed
because
violent.
of what he
It's
did.
pretty violent.
Yeah. Saw a comment. It was a good one.
Yeah. Made them look guilty even if they weren't. I said it.
Comment. But
So
I
it's
just
like
think the courts need to decide that. That's the
whole
judicial-
court
that's-
system is
yeah.
in place for that. Okay, so that was one thing. Is there something else you said?
Yeah, I think that, and I did a little bit of research just to see what I was doing. I love the fact that we have personally, and it feels really good, and I'm making that statement for a reason. It feels really good that we kicked all these Tren de Aragua people out of the country and sent them to prison in El Salvador. And I understand the law that he did that under.
Who did he kick out? Who
Tren de
specifically?
Aragua. So
I don't know who that is.
well, it's a Venezuelan gang.
Oh, okay.
So what we're relatively confident happened. Venezuela obviously is a hostile country.
Yeah.
They're socialists or
They
communists.
got problems. They got big problems.
They hate the United States. And so what is alleged to have happened is they rounded up all of this violent gang that started in prison in Venezuela that are involved in child trafficking,
all the
all the
things.
nasty stuff, and sent them to the United States, like on purpose.
Venezuela did?
Venezuela did.
Go wreak your havoc there.
Go cause problems there. And so that gang is called Trinidad. And so they're the ones that took over the apartment buildings in Chicago. They're the ones that raped and killed Lake and Riley.
I didn't. Okay,
These are these people. I mean, the worst, the nastiest.
Terrible humans.
So we had 260 some odd of them, and probably more, in custody. And under this law from 1798 that basically talks about... the Constitution's older than that.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The fact that it's an old law is irrelevant. The law is the law. It's on the books. Basically says if you've got foreign actors in your country, you can just kick them out. You can just get rid of them.
Oh.
Yeah. Involved in criminal activity. And so they just put them on a plane and sent them to El Salvador. We paid El Salvador $6 million to take these prisoners.
Yeah, and their prisons, I've kind of read a little bit about their prison situation. It's interesting. Yeah.
So I love the fact that it happened. It feels good. But just because it feels right doesn't mean it is.
Yeah, and that's another slippery slope.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with all of the liberals. It feels good and they don't think beyond that. So they're wrong about everything.
What are the repercussions down the line? Oh, there was I read another one about and I just saw the blurb. It was I follow the White House's Instagram page, which is really, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's extremely interesting how it's being ran. Do you follow it?
I may, but it's not popping up in my feed.
So
I'll have to go like some stuff so it'll show up.
So you need to follow the White House Instagram feed because I don't know how I feel about it is a good way to put it. It's interesting, and it's ran very pop culture-esque. Super pop culture.
Which on Instagram it should be.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of. I mean, but it is the White House page, right? So it's interesting.
Maybe the White House TikTok channel would be.
I don't know. I
don't think they have.
To me, there's there's a certain level of professionalism. It's interesting, and I'm not even really dogging on it. It's just interesting to watch, and the comments are the stuff of nightmares. But they mentioned on there and I'm trying to remember what country she was from. She was, I think, a student here at Columbia University who just got booted out too. Her visa got revoked.
It was a him.
No, this was a female.
Oh, it was a female.
Well, I'll show you. Hold on, I can look it up.
Well, there
real
was
quick.
the dude that they did that to, that they're having all the protests.
Yeah, no, then there's a female too, and I'll show you. It's interesting. This lady, Rasha Alawi. I don't know how to say that.
Yep.
And it's like, she traveled to Beirut to attend a funeral of another person. I can't say their name.
I did see that one.
Brutal terrorist who led Hezbollah.
Yep.
And her visa has been revoked.
Yep.
Which again, that kind of feels good.
Yep.
Like, I would say I would probably, if I sat down with her and had a conversation, her and I would not agree on a lot of things, would be my guess. And, it is mind-boggling to me how someone, if they feel any sort of hatred towards the United States, to be here.
Why would you come? Well, I have comments about that, but I want to go back and talk about the people that we sent to El Salvador.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Because my problem with that is there was zero due process. I'm not saying there needs to be full due process because they were here illegally. That was step one. We allege they were all here illegally. The problem is, what if you accidentally round up somebody that's not? Just you goof.
Whoops. We got
and
an
now
extra.
They're in El Salvador prison, and they had
with a whole bunch of violent gang members.
And they had no opportunity to prove, or at least present the idea that this isn't me. You got the wrong person.
Yeah.
And I understand if it was me and I could do this, I would ask Congress to, just like we've created bankruptcy courts and other divisions and immigration courts and other divisions of the federal court system, I would set up a rocket docket federal court system.
Boom.
These people, if you can Go here and you get to make your case that I'm not what I don't fit the description that's being quoted, and you at least have the opportunity to raise the issue.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's how our
zip.
whole system is set up,
And
right?
because I think we need at least that minimum level of protection so that you and me and Whoopi Goldberg, who is apparently very concerned that she's going to get deported.
I don't think they're coming for you, Whoopi.
I don't think they're coming for Whoopi. Despite the fact it might feel good to have her deported, I don't think they're going to do it. So there just needs to be a little bit of due process there, and there wasn't. And I'm not crazy about that.
And it just gives you the ick factor.
Now,
and
this gal that got deported here, and the analog, which is the guy, and I can't remember his name, but he's the one that's protesting all about. Here's the deal, and I thought it was well stated, was that, if you put on your visa application, hey, I want to come to the United States, and I'm coming to the United States because I want to lead pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-American protests on college campuses, we're going to deny your visa.
Yeah, because
and we have every right to do that. You're
sure,
coming
makes
to
sense.
It's like nobody has a right to come into your house unless they have your permission to do that, and you could deny them permission based on whatever you want.
Yeah.
Right? And if they lie to you about why they're coming to the country and you find out later, then we have every right to revoke their visa or their green card.
And boot them out.
And that's exactly what happened in both of these cases, and I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I really don't have a problem with it either on the surface level. I just think it opens up, I guess my thought is there is a whole mess of people in this country who are doing the same thing that these people are. Mm-hmm. And when you're picky choosy about how you do things, are you really trying to improve things? Are you just trying to send a message or are you trying to make your base happy? Like, what is the... Yeah.
I think the answer is yes.
And here's the other question for you. Like, what is... So, we have the right to free speech in the United States. Mm-hmm. Does that only apply to American citizens?
Well,
I don't know.
Yes and no.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah. Citizens obviously have a broader selection of rights than anybody else, any non-citizen.
Yeah.
And the more legal you are in your presence here, the more rights that you have. So the courts have ruled, if you're here legally or even illegally, you do have a right to free speech, but we all have limits on what our free speech is.
Sure.
There's certain things that you can't say, and there's obviously right now a large argument over what that is. It's the classic example. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't do things. You can't incite violence. And so those are some of the arguments that are being made. And part of the visa, but irrespective of that, these folks came here under an agreement. They came under an agreement that they're not going to stir crap up.
They're going to go there to go to school, and they're going to behave and do their thing.
And they didn't.
Yeah.
So they broke their agreement.
Same thing like if I go to like when I, fill out what I'm doing when I'm entering another country, this is what I'm doing. I'm here for vacation. I plan to leave during this time, and that's what I'm going to do.
I currently hold a valid visa to go to China.
Yeah.
I can get on a plane and go. I'm not going to do that right now.
Yeah, I don't blame
When
you.
I was going, it was great. Now I don't think it's such a good time. I want to go over there right now. But we are going to go to Argentina. That's okay.
Okay, we got time to talk about crosswalks.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about crosswalks.
Yes, let's talk about the local issues.
Okay. So, and hear me out. We got an interesting situation. I'm going to pick your lawyer brain here. Okay, so in the neighborhood that I live in, there is a very clearly defined crosswalk that it's not, like on, or it's not adjacent to school property, but it's just a hitch down the road, right? So, and kids use it all the time to cross the road. I use it to cross the road. In fact, I walk down to that spot to cross the road versus crossing in a different spot.
How good citizen.
Weird. And so I walk down to that spot to cross. It's a little closer to the school. And time and time again, I'm at the crossing, I'm visually looking, and I'm waiting to cross, and nobody stops.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad that in the rare event, and I mean rare event, that someone sees me and does stop, I don't trust crossing because the other lane is probably not going to stop either. So it's this very awkward situation. And really, I've just got to the point where I just wait until all the traffic is gone, and then we cross.
Yep.
But again, it is so rare for someone to stop. And, but interesting, down the road at another intersection I cross at a four-way, it is very common for people to yield to us and allow us to pass before they go at the stop
Because
sign.
they have a stop sign.
They have a stop sign. They're already stopped. They are very confident that they're doing the right thing, and but not always. Again, it's probably, I don't know, several people a week.
80-20?
Yeah. And at the other place, it's 95.
Yeah.
5, maybe.
The wrong way.
Yeah, the wrong way. Yeah. Okay. But then also down the road, okay, so this happened to me yesterday. I'm in the roundabouts. For some reason, MoDOT, and I get why, put crosswalks at I don't know how to describe the exits of the roundabouts.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a problem.
It's awkward.
Because, and so yesterday, here's what happened to me. I'm in the roundabout. I see the pedestrian. He's over at the McDonald's side. I see the pedestrian. He's approaching the crosswalk. I am in the roundabout, and I'm needing to exit that way. He's not paying attention, though. Mm-hmm. He's looking down at he stops. He's looking down at his phone, and I'm like, he's by the crosswalk, but he doesn't appear to actively be trying to cross at this exact time. So I made the decision, instead of stopping in the middle of the roundabout to allow him to go, because it's like, I felt like that was the right thing to do at the time. Mm-hmm. But I've also seen kids on the other side of that. I've also seen kids trying to cross at the roundabout that is on the, northbound exit of the roundabout on Mill.
Gotcha.
First of all, however those crosswalks were done in that area is not appropriate in the roundabout area.
Problem.
It's a problem.
I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't know either.
The solution to that is
you have to be able to navigate and get through that if you're a pedestrian. And I don't know what the solution is there. Because you can create a big traffic problem stopping in the middle of a roundabout, because they, by nature, are not designed to have people stopped in them.
Put the crossings over away from the dog bone, up where the entrance and exits to the highway are.
Yeah.
And,
to me, it makes sense to put the crosswalks not in the section where you're exiting the roundabout, but the section where you're entering the roundabout.
Yes.
Because that
does make more sense.
That makes more sense, because as you're entering, you're like,
you can stop there.
You can stop there, and you often do have to if there's traffic in the roundabout.
Yeah.
But the idea of the whole purpose of the roundabout is not to stop in the roundabout, is to keep moving.
But if there's a crosswalk over your exit and somebody's waiting there, you're obligated to stop. In the roundabout.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the law.
That's the law. But again, it was a weird situation because this kid was not paying attention. He did not seem ready to cross.
Yep.
And I'm not going to hold up traffic in a roundabout if he's not engaged in what he's doing. That made sense to me at the time.
So he doesn't know what he's doing either.
He doesn't know what he's doing either. And I think he was just like walking around looking at his phone, which is dangerous in traffic. Yeah. But the one by the school, hands down, it's a crosswalk. Mm-hmm. It has a sign. The sign points to the crosswalk. The crosswalk is made in the road.
Clearly painted.
It's very visible. There's entrances from the sidewalk that go to it. I mean, it's so obvious. Nobody stops.
You got to stop. But
I honestly think, because we are not a pedestrian traffic minded community.
Right.
And I mean, Springfield's had tons of problems with people getting killed on foot traffic, getting killed on the streets. Glenstone's notorious for it. Mm-hmm. And
they had to build that wall on National at MSU.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids kept running across
and
that street. Getting killed, yeah.
And I mean, it's just a matter of time before it happens, because, I mean, and people talk, I saw kids cross in front of a car the other day that didn't even have a crosswalk. And that's part of the problem, too, is like, our pedestrians don't have the right mindset to do these things. Mm-hmm. Because if you're trying to cross traffic, you need to be engaged and aware.
You're paying attention.
You need to be paying attention. And if you're driving, you need to be following the law. Mm-hmm. But I think most people don't understand the law.
Well, that's clear.
Yeah.
So you're right. Well, the other one that nobody understands the law on and irritates me to no end is I'm entering the highway.
Oh, I know.
It's like, you have no right to enter the highway. Nobody has to get out of your way.
No.
Nobody has to slow down. Nobody has to make room for you. You got to
figure it out.
You figure it out. And
you got to figure it out.
People get angry all the time.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't let me in. Well, you can just see they're mad. I mean, they're not saying anything. It's like, dude, pay attention while you're on that on-ramp.
Yeah.
Look over, see where the hole is, speed up, slow down, find your hole, and get in it. But nobody has to move for you.
The people tootling down the ramps, going 20
Not
miles per
paying attention,
hour,
and then
not
just-
paying attention, just beep. No, that's not good. You
Not
can't do
good.
that.
Can't do that.
So okay, so we have an obvious problem, and what do you do about something like this? How do you raise awareness to the law? Because it's like, okay, do you do some big campaign like stop in crosswalks and somehow try to remove the generational mentality of we are not a pedestrian area? And even though there are all the time pedestrians on the road.
Well, I think you have to raise awareness. That's the only way to deal with it.
I guess,
so,
yeah.
Maybe you talk about it. Maybe we get on Planet 417 K-Raj, we talk about it a little bit, and 7 or 8 people get to hear us talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe we ask our police department to sit down there and monitor that.
And Jack, the mayor, messaged me yesterday. He'd seen the post, and he's like, I've asked the police department to write some more tickets there, which is great. That's good. I appreciate Jack
caring. They
caring.
don't even have to write the tickets. If you just pull people over and say, hey, by the way, I
stop.
pulled you over because you stopped, and we're just letting people know now because it's a problem, but in 30 days, we're going to start writing tickets.
Yeah. Well, because the side note, 2 people that went through while I was there last time should have known better.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like employed by places that should have told them the law. So it's like, So it's like, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting situation because you could even bring all the awareness in the world, and you're still going to have people who just are so used to the way they think it is, they're never going to change.
Oh, 100%.
But I do think it's worth considering putting like a flasher there. And I don't know how those work. Like if you hit a button and they start flashing, it somehow has to sense that there's a pedestrian. But I'm going to roundabout, and then we got to finish up pretty quick. It's a bigger town now than it was. There's more traffic. There's, more people.
More pedestrians.
There's more pedestrians. There's more car traffic. So these are some of the things that we're going to have to start thinking about
100%.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got it. Well, we're going to shut it down a little bit early today. We want to thank everybody who's watching. We'll be back next week. I'll tell you how my visit to the TSA
I'm so excited. I'm excited for you.
And hopefully everybody will stop at crosswalks. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.